Okay, in order to get the latest release of PowerToys 1.81, you need to go to GitHub. It's a software repository for projects. And if you go to GitHub's page here, which I'll have a link in the description, you'll see the release page. And here it has a list of all the different releases that have happened so far for this project. Now you can scroll down, look at all these releases and everything, but they're all basically earlier releases with less features than the current release of 1.80. So all you do is go down here to the download file here, and you click on it to download. Depending upon your browser settings, it's going to open up a window perhaps and download it to your hard drive, or download automatically to your default. I have a place where I keep all downloads at, and you see here I've already downloaded this there, but it just goes there. Now once you download it, you run it like any installer, and I'm not going to go through all that here, but it'll go ahead and install the software to your system. Now if you install it and run it, you'll notice that it doesn't come up in the window. You have to go down here to your taskbar. You'll see it as one of the running processes there, and you can click on it to launch the interface. Okay, the first thing you should check to see that you're running administrator mode so it has rights to modify your system, and check it to show it that it's always going to run as administrator. Color modes and all that, no big deal. Updates, it's up to you whether or not you want it to automatically check for updates. Okay, the first PowerToy we're going to look at is Fancy Zone. Basically, these are areas on your screen that allow you to drag and drop programs automatically into those areas, and how you can set them up. Now, if you scroll down into Fancy Zones, you'll find there's a whole ton of customization, like changing the color, do all that. A little demo on how to do it. There's a whole lot of things. But we're going to mainly cover how to edit these zones. Now when I started, I came up with some of my custom ones that I already defined. But what you're going to see instead is you're going to see the standard ones that it comes already predefined that you can maybe use or modify. And if you look behind this, you'll see that it shows the ones that is currently in use on my system, which is the ones I previously defined. But if we click on one of these and we want to go ahead and start playing around with them, we can choose any of these. There's a 3-column one, equal columns across. If we click on a different one, we can come up with a different configuration. This one here with a bigger center section. Then all I do is click on apply, and now those sections are being applied to my system as it is. Like I said, there's a whole bunch of options down here. This is the key you use to invoke it. Now that's to invoke the editor, not to PowerToys. The screen definitions are there as soon as you save them and PowerToys is running on your system. Now I've created some uneven sections here to show you how you can just drop things inside of them and it'll snap to that particular section. However, there's a little known feature that if you drag in between them, you'll see it highlights both of them and it'll take the height and width depending upon how they're constructed. For example, if I go and drag this over here, it snaps in there. If I drag it down there, it snaps in there. But if I drag it over these two sections like I did the other ones, it adopts both the height and the width. Again, to demonstrate again, if you drag between two sections, it'll adopt both the height and width for those two. You can still move your windows around normally with an arrow and size to whatever you want. But as soon as you grab something, then you're going to be tied to those. Well, you can drag on the outside and it'll retain whatever shape you had. I'm sort of doing a backward demo because I'm showing you how it operates first, but I wanted to be clear how this thing works before you go into the editor to do some more detailed stuff. So if I'm in the custom over here and I choose this one and I want to edit it, I simply click on Edit Selected Layout and I'm in the editor for that layout. Now that we're in the editor, you can move things around. Let's talk about the different sections. First of all, you may not like these. You want to resize them and move them. It's quite simple. All you have to do is click on the section in order to get a hold of it, and then you do whatever you want. For example, here's section number 1. I can move this anywhere I want on my screen. And of course, the same goes for section 3, and let me put that back, and section 2 as well. You can leave it wherever you want. Now I could save this as it is, but I'm going to add a 4th layer, and the reason being is that you saw earlier where I had to drag it outside in order to get a bigger section. Well, now I'm going to create this larger section in the middle for when I want to focus on the middle, and I say save that one. Now, not only do I retain the other ones, but I can go and highlight this particular one, drop it there, and it gives me a medium-sized window right in the center of my screen. But I can still go and drag to those different areas there, like that. And I can still do the overlap one too. So I have quite a few combinations that I can play with. Now I wanted to show more than just one window, so I'm going to move this off to the side here. I'm going to go to my other screen. I have a separate screen that you can't see off to the right. I'm going to drag in another window, my files. I'm going to let go of it there, and there's two windows in operation. But what if you're somebody like me that has two monitors? This is my second monitor. Let me minimize my recording. But here's the other monitor that I have, that I use. And you notice here that if I launch the zone editor here, it'll show which ones I have already set up for this screen. And you can do this just like you did the other one. You can go ahead and edit this layout for this particular monitor and make different sizes, completely different layout than your other one. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to create a couple of zones here and go like that. And I'm going to add one more. I'm going to go over here, resize it, and put it over here. And you'll see here that once I save it, it operates just like the other one. It has different zones. I just drag an application to whatever window I want to use. Now here's the view of both my monitors, recording of both of them at the same time. And you'll see as I drag across them, the fancy zones that are defined for each monitor are still in force. You just have to remember to drag fancy editor, zone editor, to the monitor you want, redefine those zones, and it won't affect the other ones. And then you'll have zones that work across both monitors. Now the next item on the list is the SVG viewer and MD viewer. Basically it's for graphics people. SGV is a vector file, and when you're in File Explorer you can't see it in the preview. For example, here's a system that doesn't have it installed for PowerToys, and when you click on an item you'll see that there's no preview available. But here, if we go now to one here, we click on View. You see now I have the preview pane open, and if I click on a JPEG, there's the image of the JPEG. Same with other JPEGs, PNG files. But now, when I click on an SVG file, not these, but down over here, there it is. Now it shows the SVG file. One thing you'll notice here, it only works in the preview pane. It doesn't show an image in the regular file listing if you're in view mode here. So you just see the regular icon. Okay, moving on to the next item is the picture resizer. You're used to seeing this on your phone or somewhere else where they automatically resize your picture when they send a text, things like that, to make it less size. So this is now built into this PowerToy where you can click on any picture and do a resize. Here it defines each different type of size, and you can add your own. But let's go ahead and take a look at one over here. I'm going to go to one of my files where I have some images at, and we'll use those as a test. Let me go here. These are already small, so basically this is for one that you have a camera picture that's like a 2 gigabyte picture or whatever. So here's I'm going to go to this camera roll from a phone, and I had left a picture here of a shower hose that was defective. So if I right click on it and say properties, you'll see the size of the picture here, how big it is. And you're not going to send this or save this or whatever. It's so big you don't care. So you'll see that it's 4,000 by 3,000 wide, way too big. So now we're going to be able to right click on this, and we'll use those settings over there. And we're going right down here to resize, and you'll see that they have them listed here. And you give them a custom one that you want to define on the fly. And they have them, I don't know why phone's on the last, but they have them in a order here. You just choose one of the ones you want. And before we click on resize, there's some other options here. One of the main ones is that if you don't want duplicates of it, you just want to overwrite it. You can overwrite it. Just be a little careful on doing that. But once you have it all ready to go and everything, all you have to do is click on the resize button, and boom, it makes a copy of it in the new size. Now to compare them, I'm going to bring up the property dialog box for each one of these. I'm going to right click and say properties, and put that one over there, and do the same thing here. Now the other one's hidden behind here, so let's put this one in place and bring the other one up next to it. And there they are. And you can see the differences in the file sizes, that they are way different sizes. and everything worked as advertised. And if we go to the Details tab, you'll see that the size here and the new size, there's the difference there, and why the graphic is the size it is as far as file size. It's because its resolution has been changed. Now another option you have is how the dates are handled. Okay, you see here the dates here are different than the dates of the original file. So if you're doing this for your own personal history historically, you're going to lose some of that. So what I would suggest is maybe you want to go back to the settings. So we want to keep the modified date. The date create is always going to change, but we want to keep the modified date. We can go over here to the options in the image resizer, and we go down here. Forget encoding and all that, most of that stuff's left, leave that alone. Okay, but if you go scroll down a little bit further, at the very bottom down here, you'll see an option that says to keep the dates. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. We'll go back and try it again. So let me go back over to the actual images, and we'll get you'll be able to see that we're going to do the exact same operation here, except I'm going to go ahead, right click on it this time, and say resize. Okay, say resize. Get another version of it here. Just add on a 1 to it just because it's another duplicate. If I right click on it this time though, and I go to properties of this one, you'll see that it's got that date, but the modified date, it's kept that. So that's still in the tags for your image, the original date. Now I may gloss over it a little bit earlier, but if you go back to the image resizer section of the app, you can delete different ones if you don't want all those different choices. You can add your own, put in your own size, and it'll appear on the resizer in Explorer after you've configured it this way. And lastly, one thing to point out is that you can do more than just one photo at a time. If you highlight several photos, for example, here are the same ones again, and if I highlight 4 of them, and let me switch to image mode, you'll see that I have the 4. I highlight them, and I come down here to resize pictures again, and I choose whatever, I leave it at medium, whatever, and I do resize. You'll see that it does all of the pictures, and bam, there we have resize. So you can do an entire import from your camera in one fell swoop. It may take a little bit of time, but it'll allow you to reduce multiple photos at one time. Now, if you're a person that has a specific task you do all the time repetitively, and you want to remap one of your keys on your keyboard to do some other function, some other keystroke, you can use the keyboard manager to remap keys. I find this a little scary myself. I'm liable to get something remapped wrong. It's a little confusing the way they do it here. But if you click on the plus sign, you'll be able to actually choose a key and then choose a key that it invokes instead. So for example, if you use the drop down here, you can select it from a scrollable list and just choose one. So maybe some function key or whatever. So let's do a shift or a control key. And then instead of having to press that, I can press it by selecting the key here. Or I can collect that and I can select that box and then press a key, and it'll take that key as the new key that does the other function. Again, play with this yourself. I'm not going to cover too much here, but in certain cases it may be beneficial. Now, Power Rename is an advanced way of renaming multiple or single files on your system rather than the usual way through File Explorer. Just check the default settings here. You should be fine to go in there and start using it. I would caution that you play with this using a copy of some files first until you get very familiar with it. You can very easily get into some trouble renaming files, losing your original file, whatever. It gets a little confusing. So let's go take a look. So I'm going to use the same files that I used in the image resizer because we have several of them. And one of the things you may want to rename is because you have multiple named files that appear similar. So here I've created 2 sets of files, one with one set of names, one with the other. And I want to rename these, but I don't want to rename all of them. I can highlight them all, I can highlight some of them, But if we do to highlight them all, and you'll see here that if we type in a word up top here, it'll find it in your list of files down there. For example, it finds the second set but not the first. And then we can just rename just those files. Truth be told, you can do this in regular Windows, but if you have a very large list of files, this becomes very easy to filter out which ones you're going to rename and which ones you're not going to. But if you're like the average user, you have a small discrete number, or even if it's a slightly larger one, like this is some organs my wife has, and one other one. But the point of it is that these files here have all the same name generated by the camera. So the first thing I'm going to do those, because they're so large, is I'm going to use that first function that we used. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to come down here to resize. I'm going to have it turned off for don't make any copies. It's going to overwrite the file and say boom. And now I have the new version that I'm ready to rename. So I come down here to Power Rename and try to type in the new number or the new name. And I come up with this. And again, it's got a bunch of garbage in it. There's no reason to use this function to do that. So instead of that, we're going to use the built-in Windows rename. Come down here. It'll highlight the first file in the order, and you just put the new name in. Once you hit enter, it'll number them 1, 2, 3, and 4 in that order, and you can figure out what you want to do from there. So Power Rename is great for large, complex file lists, but for everyday use, you can just use built-in Windows rename. Okay, the next function I'm going to talk about in their list and everything is the run function. Really nice interface that is created for you to call up and very easily run a program. So instead of using the Windows search key down here to do it, if you don't like this interface, too much busyness for you, it's a lot easier to use this run function. And you simply invoke it. Instead of doing this, you just hit the Alt space bar and you'll see that a very nice little interface pops up right in the middle of your screen. It says start typing. So if I start typing here, and let's do power, you'll see there's PowerShell, okay, there's PowerPoint, and actually PowerToys. So you can sit there and type, and for the most part, you'll get a quick list of your applications available to you, and by simply hitting enter, you can launch them. And just for clarity, let's try a couple other ones here. Power, oh, I already did that. So let's go back and I'll start typing in something else. If I type in Pinnacle, there's all my different versions of my video editing software. I found every one of them. If I type in Load Runner, there's my Load Runner game I have installed. Watch my other video, by the way, on that. Now you have to type in more than one character, otherwise you get silly suggestions. But whatever you do, you should get suggestions that are related. These particular ones are here because of I do a lot of Microsoft work, and it's in some of the applications I develop. There's my website and some files and everything. So it does all those kind of searches, but in a very quick, clean interface. And finally, we're going to cover the shortcut guide, which is a very nice little guide that you can help you remember your shortcut keys. And I went through this in my earlier video, but you just set up your defaults here, which is just color and things like that. But once you press and hold the window key, just like it says up there, and how many seconds, you'll get this. You'll get a nice little interface that says, here's what keys you can press and what they do. Opens the Action Center, ease of access, quick link, all these different things. They'll show you, and this will help you remember what keys do what when you press certain keystroke combinations. After you get used to it, you won't have to worry about it anymore. Now, one feature you should be aware of is that down at the bottom, when you hit you'll see a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 0. And what it aligns to is your first items on your taskbar, up to 10 items. And if you press the Windows 1 key, it'll launch Mail, Windows 2 key, Converse, it'll do all those things depending upon what happens to be lined up underneath that particular icon. Now, it may be confusing if you do it, but if you move one of your icons around, let's say I'm moving Notepad over here, okay, and now I look at it, and now Notepad is number 6. So You can arrange those icons on your taskbar whichever way you want, and they will adopt the keystroke in the first 10 positions. So there it is, PowerToys 1.81, some new features, some improved features. Take time to take a look at it and choose which ones you want to use. Hey, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like this video. And if you want to get more, just subscribe to Old Guy Geek. You can also follow me at Facebook or Twitter. The links to those are in the description of this video.